Hi guys, welcome to our channel. Today we are discussing a movie in which a young Mexican woman dreams of an American life in her mind, and this becomes the reason for her to immigrate to the United States illegally. But unintentionally, she gets caught in a strange trap that changes her fate. Check the title of the movie in the description. In the movie beginning, we see a young Mexican woman named Marisol who is being raped by someone. The scene changes, and the news talks about illegal immigrant groups on the Mexican border that cause terrorist activities, and the news anchor emphasizes that American citizens can no longer tolerate this. During a flashback, it is revealed that Marisol's boyfriend Oscar, whom they met each other on the trip, is the one who encourages her to go to America illegally and promises her a good life. However, it turns out that he was the one who raped Marisol terribly and even left her alone on this trip. A few months later, it turns out that she failed to go to the United States. While she is pregnant, she is now trying to go to America and find out the reason for his non-commitment, and it seems that she is still thinking about him. Through a call she was informed that the coyote in charge of border smuggling was now in a cafe. Marisol immediately reaches out to him and tells of her intention to cross the border again. Despite Coyote's request, Marisol is only willing to pay half of the money because she believes she paid him half of this on the previous unsuccessful trip and threatens to report him to the police as a border smuggler if he disagrees. Coyote, who has no choice but to accept, agrees and warns her that this time is more difficult than before, especially now that she is pregnant, and says that we will leave tomorrow. Marisol packs her things and even practices self-defense with a knife. She wakes up with a nightmare about her relationship with Oscar. She visits her protector, Lupita, and after examining her, Lupita warns her that her delivery is very close. Marisol informs her that she will cross the border illegally with Coyote. Still, Lupita tries to dissuade her from doing so. It's useless, and Marisol insists that she must do this to get rid of this pain, and she needs her prayers to leave. Then, a group of girls who also intend to immigrate illegally arrive, and Lupita gives them all the things to prevent pregnancy to use for 6 weeks. One of them disagrees and says that she is a Catholic and cannot use these, but Lupita and Marisol insist that they use them so that they do not suffer her fate. Finally, Marisol is sent away with Lupita's prayer, and she says goodbye to them. After taking money from her again, 2 of Coyote's people take her to a place to wait. Along the way, the tattoos of one of her fellow travelers named Santo attract her attention. She is told that he is traveling because of his missions and crimes. However, Santo's prayers and his religiousness make Marisol feel good about him, and it becomes clear that he has lost his wife and child. They take Marisol and Santo to a log cabin near the border to wait, where she meets Ricky, a child who is also their traveling companion. Coyote informs them that they will have to pay Cheyenne $20 a night for food, which worries Santo a bit because he promised them they would leave tonight. He insists that he should be in Texas in 4 days, but Coyote explains that it is safer if they stay here for another day. They each put $20 on the table, but Ricky doesn't have the money to pay, so Marisol pays for him in the end. After they leave, Marisol and Ricky get to know each other and understand that they are alone on this path. So Marisol comforts him and tells him he is not alone anymore. At night, Marisol is walking outside when suddenly Cheyenne stops her and intends to rape her. At first, she defends herself, but she cannot resist him. At this moment, fortunately, Santo comes to her aid and punishes Cheyenne severely for his brutal behavior. His prayers are once again comforting to Marisol. Moments later, Cheyenne wakes the migrants in the middle of the night and informs them that they have 5 minutes to get ready to leave. They are then taken in a truck to the middle of the desert near the border. After arriving somewhere deep in the desert, Coyote advises them that from here on out, they should speak softly and not move too much, warning that if they can't continue, it's on them. With a lot of stress, the group starts to move, and Marisol, despite being pregnant, finally manages to get to the first camp. After passing the night, she sleeps next to Ricky. In the middle of the night, she has another nightmare about Oscar's behavior toward her. When she wakes up, Coyote asks them to get ready to move immediately. Suddenly, a group of motorcycle riders is heard. Coyote asks them to be completely silent. While the motorcycle patrol is chasing the 2 people, Ricky sneakily watches them from behind the bushes, and when one of them is killed, Ricky gets scared, and his voice is heard. Strangers approach, and Coyote immediately tells the group to run. The group breaks up. Marisol and Ricky are chased by a car, and the 2 are separated by pressure from the pursuers until she is stopped by a U.S. Border Patrol trooper over the loudspeaker. The pursuers return, and Marisol passes out. Moments later, when she opens her eyes, she is in labor, and a woman named Betty with blonde hair announces that her child is a girl. On Tuesday, Marisol wakes up and realizes her child was born. She finds herself in a beautiful house with great facilities. Then she follows the hum of singing and sees Betty cooking, who informs her that her daughter is asleep. Then she gives her a bowl of soup that she made, and since it is so delicious, Marisol eats it all right away with great appetite. To her disbelief, she can speak English to Betty. After that, she takes Marisol out to show her the town. Marisol is engrossed in watching the beauty of the town and the smiles of the citizens, as well as her cute daughter. Everyone is preparing for the big party, and Betty introduces the mayor, Thomas and Marisol. After welcoming them and talking a little, Thomas tells her she can help them with preparations if she wants. Betty considers him a boon to the town. Moments later, Marisol sees Oscar in the crowd, but when she looks for him, she can't find him. Surprisingly, the sound bothers Marisol when the national anthem plays on the loudspeaker. Suddenly, Wednesday comes, and she wakes up again. The same events are repeated, and this time, Marisol realizes that her daughter is not there, so she goes out and sees that she is in Betty's arms. She remembers nothing from her past and asks Betty to let her hug her daughter. Still, Betty refuses and asks her to join the other citizens in preparing for the celebration, and not to let the opportunities that have arisen for her be easily lost. The smile of the citizens is a bit strange for her, and a few minutes later, she sees Ricky while going to school and calls him.
Ricky! Hi! Come, children.
Then she sees Thomas and explains to him that the situation is a bit confusing for her. He also believes that such a thing is completely normal, calls it culture shock, and says this small town has worked for them. Then he asks her to help with decoration, and when he leaves, he invites her over for dinner and informs her that the dinner is pizza. At night, when Marisol enters the city restaurant, each of the servers puts a slice of pizza for the citizens on the plate. In the meantime, Marisol still thinks that she saw Oscar. Still, it seems that all this is an illusion. When she starts to eat, she sees Santo in front of her and strangely, they all continue to eat pizza without stopping terrifyingly. Suddenly, on Thursday morning, Marisol wakes up with a scary nightmare of a baby inside her. When she wants to hug her daughter, Betty refuses again and says, "You don't want to be late for your first day of work." Marisol walks into the town more alert and sees Ricky again near the school. She tries to inform him about the past and what happened at the Mexican border, but to no avail, and he doesn't remember anything. She tests Ricky by singing a part of the national anthem, which causes things from the past to appear in his mind. Still, the teacher immediately calls him, and Ricky returns to his previous state and leaves her. A few minutes later, she sees Santo working, but like Ricky, he doesn't remember anything from the past. At this moment, Thomas appears and separates them from each other. However, while eating lunch, she goes to him again and sits before him. Santo still does not remember anything about the events related to the Mexican border. She is forced to repeat the prayers that he always whispered to himself in order to wake Santo up, and with this Marisol manages to make him aware of the past. While suspicious, he says he sold us and remembers they had a device attached to their heads. Suddenly, with excitement, he searches for the tattoos on his hand, but since there is no trace of them, he injures his hand and then commits suicide. On Friday morning, she wakes up with sadness and tears in her eyes, and in a surprise, she sees Betty above her, who says that the park is beautiful today. Inside the park, she meets Santo again and alerts him by whispering the prayers he says. Still this time, she stops him from going crazy and tries to talk to him about the last thing they remember. None of them remember anything after the chase and reaching the US Border Patrol. Moments later, they realize that all the citizens are staring at them. They talk about the unusualness of this place, especially the fact that time has no meaning there. On Saturday, Marisol accidentally sees Oscar talking to Thomas, and when she approaches him, she concludes that it is not an illusion this time. He is trapped in this strange place like everyone else. Therefore, she decides to follow Thomas, and by following him, she suddenly loses him. Then, with her intelligence, she notices the unusual wall that is the end of this place, and decides to penetrate it. By crossing it, she finds herself in the real world, and while she is still pregnant, it seems that she and other people have been abused and connected to strange devices. A little later, Thomas enters the lab and finds Marisol awake on her bed. He realizes she has followed him, and he asks her to be quiet as his boss enters. He puts the device on her face while she can still hear. Atwood, his superior, asks Thomas about Ricky's condition and he says it is unlikely that he will be able to last a week. Marisol becomes more worried about Ricky after hearing the conversation between them. Atwood then inquires about Marisol's condition and emphasizes that she is one of the most valuable guests. Thompson points out that being in this situation may harm the fetus, and this makes her more worried than before. She wakes up on her bed in the room and sees Betty saying, "You were dreaming." Then she wants to hug her daughter, but her face changes. She hears strange and scary noises and decides to run away from home. While Betty and the other citizens are chasing her, Marisol has no choice but to escape through the wall at the end of the town. When she wakes up in the laboratory, she tries to escape, but again, she seems caught in a spatial trap. Atwood is surprised that she's logged out and says that's impossible, and after a little talk about her behavior, he asks Thompson to log her back in. Then, with the explanations he provides about the project, it is clear that he prepares these people for testing so that with this work, the prisoners in a virtual holding cell can experience a happy and humane transition. In his opinion, he solved an international challenge safely and humanely so that the taxpayers would be safe from paying taxes and saving their profits. Thompson insists that maybe they can make a better version of this platform so that humans are not so vulnerable in it. But the only thing that doesn't matter to Atwood is the lives of these immigrants. Marisol wakes up in the virtual world with belly pains. Thompson tries to talk to her through Betty and informs her that he is going to be part of a project that is supposed to change the world, a project in which people like Marisol give them a chance to taste an American life. Now he has come to the conclusion that the lives of these people may be in danger. He plans to save herself and everyone, but Marisol does not trust him. At the last moment, Thompson asks her to adapt to the environment. Then Atwood comes, and he has to end this conversation. On Sunday morning, she joins the rest of the citizens like normal people, while Thompson still asks her to act normal. Then he invites them to the restaurant for the night of celebration to eat, but eating these foods is nothing more than an illusion, because they are fed through strange tubes. Marisol's refusal to accept any food will disrupt the system of robot servers that were only specially programmed. Finally, she starts singing the national anthem of Mexico to inform people about their past. Still, at this moment, Atwood enters and announces himself as the governor and says that the 4th of July celebration that everyone has been waiting for will begin now. People go outside to watch the fireworks in the sky, and Atwood approaches Marisol, informs her that no one has found the end of the street yet, and asks her about her child. She screams in pain, and people disperse from her noises. Chaos ensues, and Atwood shouts to stop the project. On the other hand, Santo, who found the exit gate from this platform through Marisol, enters the laboratory and wakes up Marisol, who is in severe pain. Soon, Marisol finds out that Ricky died, because he was weak and not ready for this test and gets very sad, and moments later, she realizes that her baby is coming out. Santo has already done this once, and fortunately, he succeeds in giving birth to her child, a girl. Minutes later, while the sirens of the laboratory are sounding, Santo wakes up the Mexicans one by one, who inadvertently entered a dangerous project, and they all try to escape from there. Thompson also looks at Marisol through the cameras when suddenly Atwood appears and informs the security agents to prevent them from leaving and asks Thompson for help to stop them. But Thompson, who now realizes his inhuman character, kills him with a shot in the head. With the help of others, Santo manages to defeat the security agents one after another. Meanwhile, Marisol sees Oscar's body still attached to the machine and approaches him to ask him about the brutal rape and abandonment, but he desperately asks for help. Marisol tells him that he is the father of the child in her arms. Oscar asks her to let him see his baby, and then he angrily shouts why she is not saving him and threatens Marisol with the same brutality. Marisol, who endured such hardship to see him, is disappointed, and when she sees this brutal behavior in him again, she decides to kill him and strangle him. Santo arrives, and the two of them run away together. When she leaves, she sees Thompson, who seems to regret what he did. Outside the building, immigrants break the door lock with the help of each other and escape to America, but Marisol decides to return to Mexico. At the movie's end, she asks Santo to return home with her, but he refuses. He says that some of us need a fresh start, and they say goodbye. Marisol also has to return home alone. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.